Bitcoin: Investing Strategies and Success for Beginners by Roy Fantas. Narrated by Brandon Suku. Chapter 1: Bitcoin Scams. The Bitcoin history is very intriguing. Its developer was a confidential group of fantastic mathematicians who designed it in 2008 to be virtual gold and released the first Bitcoin software in early 2009 during the height of the USA economic dilemma. They knew that to have enduring value, like gold, it needed to have a limited supply. So in creating it, they capped the supply at 21 million Bitcoin. Bitcoin mining refers to the process by which new Bitcoin is created. With traditional currency, federal government decides when and where to print and disperse it. With Bitcoin, miners use special software applications to resolve complicated mathematical issues and are released a specific number of Bitcoin in return. Bitcoin has led the crypto world for so long and so dominantly that the terms crypto and Bitcoin are usually used interchangeably. Bitcoin is the very first widely known and accepted cryptocurrency worldwide. Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency that was created in 2009 by an unknown person using the alias Satoshi Nakamoto. While the currency has been around for a very long time, its appeal rose a few years ago when merchants began accepting it as a form of payment. In addition to using it for transactions, you can also trade the coin, therefore making huge profits. It is currently the biggest market cap at around $41 billion and has been around for the past 8 years. Everywhere in the world, Bitcoin has been widely used, and so far, there's no easy way to make use of weakness in the method it works. Both as a payment system and as a saved value, Bitcoin allows users to easily receive and send out Bitcoins. The concept of the blockchain is the basis in which Bitcoin is based. It is needed to comprehend the blockchain idea to get a sense of what the cryptocurrencies are all about. Bitcoin scam. Whether you think Bitcoins are the currency of the future or a passing trick, you can't deny that some folks have already made millions. So, with the attraction of easy cash comes criminal offense. And the criminal offense is getting bigger and more advanced. At first, it was the petty criminal activity. Many people would offer to sell something for Bitcoins and not pay, or offer to sell Bitcoins and never deliver. You get this in nearly every online marketplace. It wears down the reliance on the system and is quite common. Most internet-smart folks know how to avoid the worst of it. Since Bitcoins is still restricted primarily to techies, it has been even less of a problem. Sites quickly sprang up that noted trusted sellers, buyers, and sites and those not to do business with. The system was self-policing in a brief order. Now that all the stakes have been raised, we have a much higher level risk to the Bitcoin system. Trojans and viruses have been written to target the Bitcoin's wallet. The Bitcoin's wallet is currently kept in a common directory and is unencrypted. So anyone with access to your computer can take your Bitcoins immediately. The infection searches for that directory site and sends off the information to the criminal. For the infection to get into your computer system, you would have had to invite it. It was attached to a program that's said to be useful to Bitcoin's mining. People downloaded it to see if it helped and were infected. Typically, this is actually something which really few of us would willingly do. However, in the Bitcoin's world, everyone was pursuing an advantage. Time was compressed as many people jumped at every chance in this gold rush type of atmosphere. In early June, a person lost $500,000 worth of bitcoins to this technique. The person had downloaded some things and was unsure when or how the Trojan was installed. He found several malware items when he ran a virus check. The Trojan was more than very likely welcomed into his computer, and viewing as how bitcoins are so new, a virus software application would not be likely to want to secure the Bitcoin wallet. The transaction was noticed on the Bitcoin's network, and an unknown person posted about their successful criminal activity on Twitter. People have required the Bitcoin's community to unite and reverse the transaction. The feeling is this would develop a hazardous precedent as what other transactions could then be reversed. Who proves that a serious offense was committed? As of the writing of this, the money has not been recuperated. Once again, Bitcoins and Bitcoin users are still learning how to adjust. The most recent version of the Bitcoin software application will secure the wallet behind a password. Again, people are identifying which softwares and applications are really secure and which ones are not. The system is self-correcting again. Big cash and the current press for Bitcoins is going to bring the unpleasant side of commerce to Bitcoins again and again. But with all of the computing power and the scientific know-how that is in the current Bitcoins community, I doubt that adaptation will be very far behind. Bitcoin's meteoric rise in rates over the year in 2015 has awakened traditional interest in the original cryptocurrency. With rates looking bullish once again, investing in Bitcoin has never been as popular, but the rise in interest has not been without consequences. One of the drawbacks of new investors going into the market is the boost in the number of ripoffs, frauds, and stories of retail investors who lose their coins to dubious ventures. From ICO scandals to wallet theft and fraud, routine consumers can fall prey to crime quickly. It may seem like it's the Wild West for investors, but it doesn't have to be. While there are definitely dangers in the market, the chances might be tempting for some. Nevertheless, bewaring is always a must, and there are clear signs of ripoffs that investors can look for. By avoiding these traps, users can better their chances for success and secure their investments. These are some of the most typical ripoffs and how they can be kept away from. Hardware wallet theft. For users who are concerned with security and personal privacy, a hardware wallet, a physical gadget that stores their private keys, is a significantly well-known alternative. Generally as little as keychain USB drives, these wallets offer an offline way to help crypto investors protect their Bitcoin even further. However, there have been reports that some of them have integrated weak points which open them to computer hackers that could quickly take all a user's holdings. This is far from the only issue, however. According to Ofer Beagle, owner of 99bitcoins.com, one ripoff involves selling hardware wallets to users with a pre-configured seed phrase hidden under a scratch card. The new user is told that he ought to scratch the card and set up the wallet with the compromised seed. This produces a back entrance that permits hackers to simply drain funds once a wallet is triggered. These ripoffs are becoming more common, but they can easily be kept away from by only accepting wallets from trusted sources. Exchange scams. Despite their decentralized nature, most cryptocurrencies are still purchased and sold at exchanges. While this makes it much easier to find the coins investors desire, there is still no regulatory body supervising these exchanges in many nations. Thus, many investors have been left broke when the exchanges they signed up for turn out to be traps. In December, some South Korean exchanges were exposed, resulting in pledges of stiffer policies by the country's authorities. These ripoffs aren't hard to find, but can be pricey if not avoided. One of the biggest warning signs is the promise of unrealistic rates. Exchanges that guarantee heavy discounts on Bitcoin use this technique to lure in unwary victims. Furthermore, users can exchange URLs. Web addresses should always begin with HTTPS, an indication that traffic is encrypted. Visiting unsecured sites is a bad idea, but alert investors can stay away from losing thousands by trying to find the right signs. Fake ICOs. One of the best actual results of the cryptocurrency boom has been the rise of the preliminary coin offering as a new way for companies to raise capital. With countless new blockchain-based companies getting in the marketplace with unique ideas and exciting projects, users can now back their favorite businesses easily. Having said that, this enormous explosion of ICO opportunities has undoubtedly raised the specter of fraud. There are some ways fraudsters can separate investors from their Bitcoin. One well-known method involves creating fake websites that look like ICOs and instructing users to deposit coins into a compromised wallet. Other times, it's the ICOs themselves at fault. Centratech, for instance, a blockchain venture backed by some stars, has been sued in the US. The company stands implicated of portraying fake group members, misleading investors, and lying about their products. The best way to keep away from these ripoffs is close research that involves choosing apart the white paper, reviewing the team behind the endeavor, and crucial board members or financiers. Right before making any investment, it's vital to learn as much about the company as possible to avoid any undesirable surprises. Cloud mining schemes. Mining is the only way to extract new Bitcoins without buying or exchanging them, but it has become an exceptionally resource-intensive activity. Due to the unique way new coins are mined, it takes huge amounts of processing power and electrical power, and hence money, to mine a coin. Yet, many businesses now offer routine users the ability to rent some server space to mine coins for a set rate. Some businesses offer life contracts, which keep costs the same and supposedly offer exceptional returns. Nevertheless, as the difficulty of mining increases, the same investment will return smaller amounts each time. Furthermore, some businesses make strong claims regarding their returns without being transparent about the true costs and lessening returns. Others simply operate Ponzi schemes that can result in huge losses. It's important to look into chances and comprehend the dangers and expenses related to mining before investing. Multi-level marketing. Even in the digital spheres, many multi-level marketing plans have arisen that offer naive financiers excellent opportunities for progressively bigger sums of Bitcoin. MLMs, as they are known, are predicted on offering fast returns, but actually involve taking more money for the promise of even higher profits. One significant company that has been repeatedly outed is OneCoin, whose owners were implicated in some other dubious operations. The company offered financiers enormous profits, and even high-end items and perks for paying more. Though, there is little information on the company beyond their own site, and users have left scathing evaluations online. It's essential to always pay more attention to a business's small print and guarantee that their claims are possible and real. Avoiding these ripoffs early can safeguard investors' wallets. With the present fad, being alert and doing one's due diligence should be considered before buying Bitcoin. The market is also demonstrating signs of maturing, causing better transparency and clearer guidelines. Regardless, any wise investor's primary step should always be where research to guarantee their investments are always winners. Chapter 2: The Many Benefits. With the start of Bitcoin, many had the option to get an online coin or a currency that they can use similarly with fiat cash. Well, Bitcoin has a lot of benefits over other currencies. Here is an example. You can send Bitcoins to someone as a payment without having to go through the bank intermediary and get hit with extra charges. It's also much faster than sending cash via a bank wire or transfer. You can send Bitcoins to someone and have them getting the coins in seconds. Here are some of the advantages. Free entry. Unlike the stock market and other trading channels, there are nearly no barriers to entry into the Bitcoin market. All you need to do is determine a seller that you can buy from. If intrigued by selling, recognize a purchaser, and you are all set to go. Global. You can trade the currency from any part of the world. This indicates that a person in China can purchase or sell Bitcoin to a person in Africa or any other place. This makes the currency significant as it isn't impacted by the economy of a single country. It is volatile. Just like the other currencies in the foreign exchange market, Bitcoin is highly unpredictable. And this means that it rapidly changes in price as a result of small shifts in the economy. If you take advantage of the changes, you can make substantial profits. 24/7 trading. Unlike the stock exchange that operates during the business hours, Bitcoin trading happens the entire day and night. The trading constraints are only on you, not on time. Is Bitcoin safe? It is reported that the Bitcoin is rolling into forbidden grounds as it creates a spate of debate amongst the high civilization and savvy digital investors. Those digital advertisers try to gain their share of the billion-dollar-a-day digital pie, while corporate civilization seeks to curtail the spiral hike in the value of what appears to be a financial menace. Some who strive on making use of the poor and vulnerable aren't having this, as they try to inoculate the masses in an effort to put down this growing digital beast. These apparently corporate scoundrels continue to put a chokehold on how the less lucky spend their money as they try to build monetary cartels worldwide. But thanks to digital currency, Bitcoins have revolutionized money control in the 21st. Regardless of the development of digital currencies just like Bitcoins, it would be remiss of me not to reveal the cons of these virtual currencies. Due to the simple fact that their digital footprints are secured, they cannot be traced online. Even though one has the satisfaction of privacy and security when trading, it offers another entrance to hide and conduct illicit transactions. When this happens, drug dealers, terrorists, and other thought culprits will continue to perform their illegal trade without detection when using Bitcoins. Though, amidst the monetary mayhem, Bitcoins offer anyone tremendous investment chances and developmental potential. No one manages virtual currency as it can be processed by the public in the online world, and the value continues to really appreciate while the society finds the rubbles of inflation. An ordinary man on the streets can purchase, save, trade, invest, and increase his chances of being financially successful without the disturbance of federal government limitations, controls, and fiduciary policies. For that reason, spiral inflations become distant memories. So many really believe the number one issue in our civilization is developing financial monopolies. When one corporation decides to manage Forex, gold, and fuel, it uses its power to dictate how money ought to be spent. Laws set by big and wealthy multi-corporations are only geared to add more wealth and power to their portfolio, rather than benefiting debtors who seek financial help. Additionally, the ones at the top shoot to drain the swamp so others can depend on them while they can become more wealthy, but they can't manage digital currency. Time has come to open the eyes of the world, and that is what Bitcoin is really all about. The ones who try to control the world are threatened by this Frankenstein, but I question they can stop it or call the shots. Presently, one Bitcoin values at $844,099.07 of the Jamaican dollar, or $6,895.80 of the US dollar. The cost for one Bitcoin in 2009 was 5 cents of the US dollar. Chapter 3. How to recognize all the web scams out there. There are different kinds of scams. What they all have in common is that a consumer is encouraged to turn over money, personal data, or checking account or credit card details without anything being given in return, or in return for an item that doesn't correspond to what was promised. Scams are usually run by expert bad guys. The chances of victims of ripoffs receiving their money back are usually small, so the best way to keep away from problems is to identify threats and take adequate preventative measures. This site provides ideas on how to stop different types of ripoffs. Cash-making scams are everywhere. You get them in your emails, on your phone, in your texts, on your Facebook wall, and sometimes even at your front door. However, perhaps the largest breeding ground for these kinds of frauds is on the World Wide Web. The internet has brought countless benefits into our lives. It offers instantaneous access to news and information, a forum for staying connected with loved ones, and untold chances for earning a salary or building a business. Still, in addition to those benefits comes a dark side. Scammers. There are those who make the most of the relative anonymity and broad accessibility of the internet to fool people into quitting their hard-earned cash, whether purposefully or otherwise. They try to get you to pay them for nothing. They try to gather your personal info. They try to install nefarious software application onto your computer. Don't let it happen. While software is available to help fend off infections and common online frauds, the best tool for avoidance is you. Understanding how online ripoffs work and, more importantly, knowing the telltale signs of a ripoff can keep you out of sticky situations. So how can you safeguard yourself from these scams? How can you determine the sincere, legitimate opportunities from the dishonest, money-hungry ripoffs? Here are 6 specific ways to find a prospective online scam. If a deal you're reading about sets off any of these warning bells, you are better off just avoiding it. 1. An upfront payment is needed before you can get any real info. If a site won't give you a clear summary of what exactly it is trying to sell you with some real examples of what you'll be getting in exchange for your payment, do not turn over a dime. Any trusted item can be sold on its own benefits, not on the claims of what that product was, without actually demonstrating you what lags the smoke and mirrors. This is actually something which many websites do, offering to show you the secrets of earning money in the house or building a company or baking on yourself, or many other scams or half-baked ideas. The catch is that they do not actually give you any real indication of how it works or whether it will work at all. Rather, it's really all about trust. They're basically the self-confidence guys of old, hoping you'll trust their claims. Other than that, now they don't even have to look at you in the eye while scamming you. 2. You're promised a quick route to wealth or to remarkable salary. If it were easy to make a big income using this system, then they'd be using the system to make a substantial salary rather than selling guarantees to you by means of email or some shady-looking site. In the real life, It takes a great deal of smarts and/or effort to collect significant wealth or a substantial salary, and even if you have an impressive work ethic or intelligence, it's still going to take years and years to build that wealth. It is never going to be overnight. It's never going to appear in a month or more. Those things are myths, developed to sell you on impractical dreams and to draw out cash from your pocket. 3. You can't find out how the person making the offer advantages. If it's not clear how the other person involved in this offer makes money, then you really need to stay far away from it. Most truthful transactions are entirely clear in how the other person is going to make money from the plan. Perhaps the individual is the seller and you're the purchaser. When circumstances show up where that arrangement isn't clear, be very wary. Why? Often, those people are earning money off of you in ways you can't see, and that means it's a way she or he doesn't really want you to see. Maybe he's getting you to set up bad software application on your computer system, or perhaps she's grooming you for some form of identity theft. Whatever it is, avoid it. Only enter into plans where it is clear what both sides get out of the offer. 4. You are being pressed. If an item is beneficial, it does not need pressure tactics to attract you. If somebody is pressing you, like by mentioning the offer only lasts for a little while, or that you are somehow foolish for not taking advantage of this, they're selling you a bad bill of goods. Do not waste your cash or time on products that can't be presented to you solely on their own benefits. If a person has to introduce pressure tactics that make you feel rushed or make you feel bad about yourself, leave. They are telling you that their item doesn't have enough merit by itself. 5. Pop-ups appear asking you to download a piece of software application or a video driver when the source is not 100% respectable. Never, ever, ever download software to your computer from any place that isn't completely reliable. If it is not the official site of a software developer, a software store connected with your model of computer or phone, or a very trusted third-party vendor like Amazon, don't download the software. If something appears telling you it's time for a software update, do not download it by pressing the button. Instead, back up and go to the actual supplier for the software application, like Adobe, and get it directly from the source. If you can't sort out the vendor, then you do not really need the software, no matter how fantastic it guarantees to be. 6. You're being bombarded by jargon. No matter how amazing the offer seems, if you can't clearly understand precisely what it is and how it works, back away. If it's being sold with lingo, pull back. Chapter 4. Tricks to better success. Bitcoin can naturally be both attracting and confusing to newbie investors who see the historic development in the cryptocurrency but also really wonder how investing in digital currencies actually works. Effective Bitcoin financiers need to do 3 things: have a plan, expect drops, and secure their Bitcoins. Have a plan. Bitcoin financiers need to have a strategy. It could be day trading, attempting to pay off student loans, trying to retire, etc. These different methods will offer a framework to make a danger-benefit trade-off decision. For example, a student wanting to pay off loans might decide it makes a lot of sense to invest $100 now with the potential to settle their student loan debt in 4 years. Whereas a young application developer could invest $10,000 aiming to retire in 10 years. If their Bitcoin holdings increase to $100,000, the student has realized his objective and knows it makes sense to squander, whereas the software application designer knows $100,000 is inadequate to retire on. Without a framework like that, one can always be questioning, should I get out now? Expect drops. Bitcoin's price will drop. Its cost will most likely drop more and faster than any other financial investment you've held. Bitcoin is held nearly specifically by speculators and early adopters, making its volatility regular. In fact, Bitcoin is more steady than it has ever been. No one knows if this nascent technology will interfere with finance with the same magnitude the internet interrupted interactions, or be displaced and relegated to the dustbins of history like the pager. It is inconsistent like a tech startup, and that is where the possibly enormous financial benefit comes from. Around midday on Wednesday of October 2nd, 2013, I was resting on a good 25% gain, having had Bitcoins for about 2 months. Around noon, I got an email from a friend letting me know the FBI had caught the guy I presumed to be running Silk Road, an online marketplace selling illegal drugs through Bitcoin. Strangely enough, that caused me to wonder if that would impact the cost, and I delicately opened a web browser to watch the cost. As I watched the price of the Bitcoin starting to tick down a bit, I greedily contemplated buying more. Nearly right before I could complete the thought, my screen turned red as the price went into a freefall. I gazed into my computer system screen like a deer frozen in headlights, watching my 30% gain plunge into a loss. Should I sell? Why didn't I sell? How low will it go? Should I purchase? What happens if it goes to $0? The stress was terrible. My stomach hurt, hands were clammy, my brain abuzz with regret at the thousands vaporized through my inaction. I wanted to avert, to think about something else, but I couldn't because I was hypnotized by all the red pixels in front of me. Then the cost reversed. Almost faster than it fell, it soared back up to 25%, getting me back into a positive area. Relief rushed over me. Speaking to Bitcoin veterans, I discovered that this had been a fairly small drop given the magnitude of the news. Prior crashes had led to much bigger losses. The veterans viewed this flash crash as a real chance to pick up Bitcoin on sale. I discovered they were right, as Bitcoin surged 1,000% over the following 8 weeks. I feel bad because I know some people purchased in high, sold in the dip, and then missed out on these subsequent gains. I feel bad since it would have been for me to make the same error. That is precisely why it is essential to expect drops, prepare for drops, and adhere to the plan. Secure those Bitcoins. Bitcoin gives owners 100% power over their funds. With that great power comes great responsibility. Besides being your own worst adversary by selling low, the next worst way to lose Bitcoins are to have them stolen by bad security practices. A lot of Bitcoin financiers have lost small fortunes through poor investment decisions and outright thefts. I approximate the root issue for 90% of thefts originate from people trusting funds with another party. This is paradoxical, since the Bitcoin developers saw the need to eliminate trust, stating in his white paper, "What is needed is an electronic payment system based on cryptographic evidence, rather than trust, allowing any two prepared parties to negotiate directly with one another without the need for a trustworthy third party." Chapter 5. Technical or Financial Challenges. Bitcoin is a new concept, edging its way into the mainstream. Hence, it is not immune to negativity and undesirable public perception. It's undeniable that the digital currency has its adversaries, either real people or perceived concepts. So what are some of the biggest problems it faces at this moment? The centralization of Bitcoin. The idea of mining, for many who initially encounter this idea of Bitcoin, appears strange. When broken down into a peer-to-peer way of validating transactions, though, it makes a ton of sense. It made a lot more sense, though, when any Bitcoin node on any computer system had a good chance to validate transactions and therefore be rewarded a block. However, this does not happen any longer. Although Bitcoin was built with great intentions in mind, selfless systems are often abused. And this is what has happened to the Bitcoin network. The problem is that there is little reward to run a node any longer. That's because effective machines built particularly for Bitcoin's SHA-256 proof of work algorithm have changed its decentralized and more open nature. Bad actors. Bitcoin mostly resolves the double spending issue. Despite that amazing technical achievement, it doesn't cater for mistakes, thefts, and scams quite so well. The confidential digital currency has at times attracted the wrong kinds of people, those wanting to take advantage of other ones who fall under the spell of a relentless upward pattern for Bitcoin's price. Whether it's prohibited online markets, pump and dump plans, or dubious crypto exchanges, they all create a black cloud over the market. And every time there is another Bitcoin break-in or fraud, it draws attention from the mainstream. When leaders in the Bitcoin market are discouraged over their inability to be banked in the USA, bad actors are those that should be blamed. The bad actor issue creates a consumer defense problem for Bitcoin. When people find out about Bitcoin and are lured to products and services that do not follow best practices, as non-transparent as they may be in this industry, that's a problem. As a result, some countries are just playing safe and pushing Bitcoin away from their banking systems. Reactionary regulation. 12% of the 73 countries that have taken some regulatory action on Bitcoin can be considered hostile or contentious. Certain nations taking a position against digital currencies appear more reactionary in their behavior than seems warranted. One example is India, where a Bitcoin exchange in that country was raided earlier this year, triggering some Bitcoin companies to stop operating. In China, the major operators there are discussing upcoming periods of hardship as the federal government cracks down on Bitcoin activities. Furthermore, in the middle of rumors of a restriction on virtual currencies in Russia, organizers just recently felt impelled to cancel Bitcoin conferences that was planned to be held there. These actions maybe show more about the banking systems of those countries than anything a federal government official says. It shows that many financial systems don't want to take on Bitcoin. They would rather manage it out of existence. A patchwork of reactionary regulative policies helps nobody. This is specifically true since international borders just cannot limit Bitcoin, the decentralized nature of it which makes it impossible to ban. A better approach could be a wait-and-see mindset to this new innovation, since its advantages might wind up benefiting everybody. Countries presently taking this kind of approach include Canada and Israel. Poor mobile platform support. Since last year, Apple has taken a proactive stance towards ensuring that users can't send Bitcoin through wallets in its App Store. Furthermore, Google does not enable in-app payments with Bitcoin. Although this has not discouraged some developers from creating mobile applications for Bitcoin, it's damaging the community. These larger innovation businesses do not want to compete with Bitcoin. So they do the same thing as limiting federal governments and use their power to control it out of existence within their ecosystem anyway. Bitcoin is excellent as a method of remote payment. It could be a competitive credit card option, especially in remote transactions with mobile or wearable devices. And this is a much better way to receive and send out payments instead of using a QR code. Using Bluetooth Low Energy, Near Field Communication, or NFC, or some other wireless technology could change the way people make payments. Yet, with billions of dollars counting on the outcome, the major players in the technology market will do their best to limit innovations that they do not manage. Low adoption. Given all of the above problems, it's not incredibly apparent why the average person would want to use Bitcoin. Okay, so there are many theoretical advantages to using a distributed currency. What is the value, though, to the daily person who just wants to ensure that money is in the bank? One issue is that the banks usually exceeded boundaries, and the international economic situation has brought hardship for many since 2008. The appearance of Bitcoin on the scene represents something new and offers a wish to people jaded by conventional financial institutions. Circle and BitReserve are both Bitcoin startups that have recently revealed plans to bring the digital currency to the masses. They plan to do so by bringing the technology's advantages to the customer market by not uncovering users to the Bitcoin layer it still depends on. So many startups in the Bitcoin space promote the wow factor of Bitcoin. Yet negative events over the past year have left consumer belief less positive than the market expected, and this, in turn, has caused stress with policymakers. In the end, it is possible the best way to get Bitcoin's advantages into the hands of people could be to not discuss it at all. Chapter 6: The Economy of Bitcoin. The Bitcoin economy is increasing at a quick rate as increasingly more startups get in the sphere and try to offer traditional services but using Bitcoins. You have everything from a market of books to dropshipping products, but only in Bitcoins, to advertising platforms comparable to Google AdSense, but in the Bitcoin economy. As Bitcoin goes more mainstream, these are only going to increase in number and scope, therefore providing a wonderful chance to get on board with this at an early stage. The huge advantage of going into the Bitcoin economy now is that you will get in on this technology at the innovator stage, and you will have the chance to be one of the leaders. Services that operate in the current Bitcoin economy also enjoy a free promotion of their business within the Bitcoin community. Everything from Gift that accepts Bitcoins to acquire store gift cards to EVR Bar that ended up being popular in the highly competitive bar and lounge scene in New York by accepting Bitcoin as payment currency for beverages. The benefits of becoming part of the Bitcoin community should also be apparent. Literally zero transaction costs for transcontinental money transfers, instantaneous transfer of money with no third-party delays, and ability to reach everyone on the planet who has access to the web. The micro-Bitcoin economy is already flourishing. Now you can do the traditional micro-tasks from agencies on the Bitcoin platform and earn your first Bitcoins that way. If you are a company, there are lots of great opportunities to promote your business to the Bitcoin audience through services like CoinURL. On an individual finance front, it is better to keep a safe and secure wallet online at one of the trusted wallet services and then begin earning some small amounts of Bitcoin just to get a feel for how this economy functions and how you can leverage this. If you can access both fiat and Bitcoin in a liquid market, there are plenty of chances where you can pay in one and get in the other to get the most out of your business. The market is still not flawless, and there are arbitrage opportunities through exchanges and products and services. Belonging to the Bitcoin economy at this amazing stage should prove highly useful to your business too. You'll be able to reach an audience that would otherwise be extremely hard to charm, the people at the technical leading edges of our society. Bitcoin is a virtual currency that doesn't depend on a main authority for accounting, but instead is entirely open source, peer-to-peer network for money, something unparalleled in the history of human economies. But are the people, their agents, and organizations prepared for this new form of currency. Bitcoin can remove in some spots and countries quicker than expected, depending upon the political environment. If a government destroys and debases its currency, then it is bound to grow in popularity. That's what occurred in Argentina when the government transformed local currency denominated bonds into USA dollar denominated bonds at a currency exchange rate that was repaired by the government. Bitcoin usage in the country shot through the roof following this, and it is still accelerating, measured concerning wallet downloads per month. Cyprus was another good example. When the government tried to seize individuals' cash, Bitcoin took off in the nation as it is far more fluid on a world scale and can be sent instantaneously to another person anywhere in the world without the need of any government intervention. That also means that realistically, the federal government can't control the supply and demand of Bitcoins within its borders. Naturally, poor governance is only one side of the formula. Economics determines the other. Bitcoin is taking off in spots that thrive on entrepreneurship and where the policies are favorable. Entrepreneurs will find the usage of Bitcoin to be exceptionally more efficient than the existing payment system that the world has, that is based upon credit cards, as merchants need to pay the charge card companies any place from 2 to 4%. If all transactions were purely in Bitcoin, with no conversion to fiat at all, then the transaction fee for the business is zero. Actually zero. You can send out and receive cash totally free through the Bitcoin network. That is what makes the economies of using Bitcoin so effective. Some of the cities that are ahead in this development include the familiar names like San Francisco and New York, but also the lesser-known entrepreneurial cities like Berlin, which has a big, prospering market for Bitcoins. When people in a city or country see Bitcoin as a shop of value, and all at once see it as a payment system that alleviates the current burden on merchants, Bitcoin has the potential to remove. It has happened in the past, and it is likely to happen in the future. Of course, you always need the entrepreneurial spirit and risk-taking to dethrone a decades-old existing incumbency. But the good news is, it's happening all over the world, all at once. Bitcoin and its impact on currency. Bitcoin is an advanced sort of currency that was introduced in 2009. It operates by making it possible for transactions to go through without the need for the intermediary. For that reason, no banks are needed. You also get the advantage of no transaction fees and no need providing your real name. With such versatility, Bitcoin has become commonly accepted by both consumers and merchants. It also can be used to buy web hosting services, foods online, and just about any service you can think of online. Bitcoin has affected much on the currency arena. It can easily be used to buy merchandise anonymously. It also offers the advantages of easy and cheap worldwide payments and is exempt or limited to any nation or control. Some people see Bitcoin as a vehicle for investments and buy Bitcoin relying on the fact that they will increase in value. To get Bitcoins, you can buy on an exchange marketplace that permits people to purchase or sell them using other different currencies. The moving of Bitcoins is quickly done by forwarding Bitcoins to each other person utilizing mobile apps or their PCs online. It is just like sending money digitally. With Bitcoins, you have a currency value that can be stored in what's called a digital wallet, which subsists either within the cloud or on a computer system. That digital wallet is like a virtual checking account that lets account holders within it send or get Bitcoins, purchase items and services, or store them. Although most savings accounts are guaranteed by the FDIC, Bitcoin wallets are not, yet they're safe, protected, and have payment versatility advantages. Unlike the USA dollar, gold, silver, or some other precious metals, Bitcoins are scarce, and this scarcity is algorithmic. In regards to worldwide remittance, Bitcoin is a winner. There is no worry about scams or security. At some money exchange services, for example, migrant workers could make use of Bitcoin to send payments from one nation to another through email. In 2014, the USA government was set up to auction off about 30,000 BTC that was taken from the shutdown of Silk Road, an online black market operation. At that time, the value of Bitcoins was $633.84. Today, one Bitcoin is worth about 12,000 USA dollars. If you take a pretty good look at some of the regional merchants downtown, these central cities, or online, you are going to see the Bitcoin logo design acceptance in the window or on the door. Bitcoin is still maturing and is making a significant progression toward being one of the most sensible currencies ever created. Chapter 7. Big businesses that accept the coin now. Bitcoin is hot. It rose to $16,000 per coin recently. People are scrambling to get a hold of it. However, can you actually pay for things with this digital money? Yes. This is by no means all of the businesses accepting Bitcoin, but it is a fascinating list of big names to show you that it is now a very serious currency to consider owning. 1. Dell now accepts Bitcoin. They have a collaboration with Coinbase, one of the most reliable exchanges. 2. Meal Network, web service company. 3. Newegg, huge merchant company of the computer electronics and hardware. 4. Microsoft, add cash to your account with Bitcoin to buy apps, games, and videos. 5. Tiger Direct, a California-based retailer that offers electronics, computer systems, and computer elements that deals with business and corporate consumers. 6. Virgin Galactic. The Richard Branson-led air travel company started accepting Bitcoin for consumers who are interested in flying to space and paying for it using Bitcoin. 7. WordPress. The popular blogging platform used by some of the biggest media companies in the world has accepted Bitcoin since 2012. 8. The Pirate Bay. A big BitTorrent director with a huge library of motion pictures, television shows, software application, and music began accepting Bitcoins in April 2013. 9. Reddit. Reddit enables users to buy Reddit Gold using Bitcoins. 10. Zynga. A well-known mobile video gaming company loves Bitcoin. 11. OkCupid. The online dating site began accepting Bitcoin for premium services in April of 2013. 12. Memory Dealers. Brings a large series of networking hardware equipment and computer memory. 13. Cheap Air. This California-based online travel booking site started accepting Bitcoin in November of 2013. 14. The Sacramento Kings NBA franchise takes Bitcoin for food, clothing, and beer. 15. Namecheap. This service offers economical domain registration. It started allowing consumers to pay with Bitcoin in 2013. 16. Intuit, an American software application company that develops financial and tax preparation software application and associated services for small companies, accounting professionals, and individuals. 17. Bloomberg.com, online paper. 18. Pizzaforcoins.com, Domino's Pizza signed up. 19. Steam, desktop gaming platform. 20. Train, eat fresh. 21. A-Class Limo, luxury service will pick you up. 22. Suntimes.com, Chicago-based online newspaper. 23. Rakuten, a Japanese e-commerce giant. 24. Movietickets.com, online movie ticket exchange and retailer. 25. Yachtbase.com, Croatian yacht charter company. 26. Expedia.com, online travel reserving company. 27. Save the Kids, international charity company. There are thousands more and hundreds of thousands to come. Bitcoin is just an infant. A lot more services will recognize the value of this magic currency quickly. Many wealthy financiers are purchasing it up like crazy. Perhaps they know something the general public needs to know. Chapter 8. Strategies to invest. This digital rush of money that's sweeping the worldwide financiers isn't only getting simpler, but also riskier every day. While it was initially a simple peer-to-peer system for small transactions, it is now used for significant investments and foreign high-end purchases, which has introduced newer strategies and figured out. How does it truly work? Bitcoin is a currency just like any other. It can not only be used to buy and sell, but can be used for investing and sharing, and can even be stolen. While the preliminary introduction of the innovation came with a desktop program, it can now be directly operated through a smart device application, which permits you to immediately buy, sell, trade, and even cash your Bitcoins for dollars. Financial investment with Bitcoins has become popular, with major sums of cash being put in daily. As a new financier, the guidelines stay the same as investing with real cash. Do not invest more than you can afford to lose, and don't invest without an objective. For every trade, keep certain turning points in mind. The buy low and sell high technique isn't as easily carried out as said. A great way to prosper faster when you decide to trade Bitcoins, however, is to learn all the technicalities. Like cash financial investments, there are now several Bitcoin charting tools to record the marketing trends and make forecasts to help you make investment decisions. Even as a beginner, learning how to use charting tools and how to read charts can go a long way. A normal chart will typically include the opening cost, the closing cost, the highest cost, the lowest cost, and the trading variety, which are the basics you need before making any sale or purchase. Other elements will give you different information about the marketplace. Additionally, new investors will usually rapidly open unprofitable positions. With this, though, remember that you have to pay a rate of interest for each 24 hours that the position is kept open, with the exception of the first 24 hours that are completely free. Because of this, unless you have adequate balance to cover the high interest rate, do not keep any unprofitable position open for more than 24 hours. While Bitcoin trading still has its drawbacks, like transactions taking too long to complete and no reversing choice, it can benefit you significantly with investing, provided you take small steps in the right direction. Keep in mind, a very good investment method. If you are interested in Bitcoin as an investment, you might follow my basic financial investment strategy. A. Buy Bitcoins and keep them for a fairly long time. Resist the temptation to purchase more or sell unless you thought about it very thoroughly. B. If you are a technical specialist, you may want to make bets on emerging cryptocurrencies, but only for a short time and only at the start. This conduct is more speculation than wise investing. Do it at your own risk. C. Do not day-to-day trade. Unless you are an expert trader, do not daily trade with Bitcoin. Commissions are high. You are probably influenced by something you just read, and you are unprotected against market control and pump and discard plans, which are still extremely common. D. Have a plan. Bitcoin investors really need to have a strategy. It could be attempting to pay student loans, trying to retire, and so on. These different methods will provide a framework to make a threat-benefit trade-off choice. Taking control of the world. With current research suggesting that the number of active Bitcoin users is set to approach 5 million by 2019, the problem of if the cryptocurrency has the potential to become a worldwide currency is being fiercely debated in both the innovation and financial worlds. The key to this currency is what makes it possible for fast and inexpensive online payments without the need for traditional banking channels. One of the largest barriers that it has to overcome is the general acceptance of Bitcoin being safe and steady, as there's no government regulating it, in contrast to most currencies. Instead, Bitcoin self-regulates and new coins are issued at the rate at which the miners produce the coins. This is a positive, however, as it is developed to be hard to develop coins so that there is a steady stream of coins being produced. Bitcoins have been successful in becoming more mainstream with businesses such as Microsoft, Dell, and Tesla adopting the currency. But transactions are not just limited to bigger businesses, with much tinier businesses also following the suit. You can now order flowers, pizza, or even coffee with Bitcoins. As the development in the adoption of the currency with retailers expands and the consciousness of the currency increases, so should self-confidence in Bitcoin. However, there is a large obstacle stopping the currency from becoming mainstream, which is being included in the exchanges. In March of 2017, the first proposition for a Bitcoin exchange trading fund was turned down by US regulators in what could have been a real game changer for Bitcoin, but instead saw their currency price fall. With the failure to be accepted by the large institutions, it makes it tough to see how Bitcoin can grow and become a widely accepted and adopted currency. Further attempts are being made to get Bitcoin listed, which will likely determine its success. Chapter 9. Using it for travel. The phenomenon of Bitcoins has taken control of the financial and business world by storm. In a world where benefit is put at a premium, many people want to deal with something handy and keep away from too much trouble. Being a virtual currency, Bitcoins have gradually started replacing the bulky standard banknotes and checks. Organizations and banks are carrying out awareness projects for their consumers to take up this mode of payment, as it is stress-free and time-saving. The main benefit is that you can track past transactions and exchange rates on a Bitcoin chart. The following are more reasons you should put Bitcoins on your list of must-haves. 1. Universal. When you are traveling, the process of exchanging currency is rather cumbersome. This is especially worse when you are going to more than one location. Moreover, carrying large amounts of cash is not tedious, but also dangerous. Bitcoins give you the comfort of carrying as much money as you really need in a virtual state. It is rather common amongst traders all over the world and thus saves you the trouble of dealing with more than one currency. 2. Less expensive. When you trade using cash, you undergo abrupt price changes in vital products. You wind up spending a lot more than you had allocated because of punitive exchange rates. Bitcoin is a global currency that has stable rates and value and will save you the time and high charges. 3. Secure. Bitcoins are scam-proof because of the heavy cryptography that goes into its making. There are no occurrences of hacking or dripping of individuals' personal information. When you use the conventional money transfer techniques abroad, you are very likely to fall into the hands of hackers who may penetrate your checking account. With Bitcoins, you alone can access your account and can authorize any money into and from it. 4. Irreparable. As a seller, you have most likely experienced a scenario where a customer reverses an already complete transaction. Bitcoins secure you from such occurrences, as these transfers can't be reversed. You should be careful with your Bitcoins to keep away from moving them to a wrong person. 5. Practical. Unlike regular banks that require evidence of recognition to open an account, Bitcoins permits anybody to access it without asking for evidence. Transactions are immediate and aren't limited by geographical limits or time zones, and there's no documentation involved. To join Bitcoins, you only need to download the Bitcoin wallet and develop an account. Forecasts as to what the cost of Bitcoin may become in the future. All over the internet, you can find projections and forecasts by analysts, Bitcoin followers, or fans taking out facts to support their creativity of where will the rates reach. In some cases, impossible or too good to be true. From Max Keiser, who mentioned his view of BTC rising above $10,000, to expert and specialist Ronnie Mose, that mentioned Bitcoin against the United States dollar could reach $15,000 to $20,000 in late 2020. The start of August 2017, SegWit procedure locked in and triggered, while followed by the Lightning Network idea being tested out, which was made possible of the segregated witness malleability repair. The BTC market cap moved and positioned itself extremely near to the $80 market capitalization, which represents 50% domination of the total virtual currency market cap. That would be 1% of gold's and just $50 million away from the MasterCard market cap. Within the next 2 to 3 years, the mining and Bitcoin creation will drop by half, leaving only around 850 that will be formed per day. Continuing 4 years later, in 2024, only 430 will be created, and so forth. Approximately just over the 2030 mark, or 2032, close to 99% of all Bitcoin that will exist will already be created and mined on the network. The next 1.6% will be a war to get their hands on them. With the mainstream factor taking international scale daily and more, at one point the fear of being neglected will make people panic, as they understand there is not much Bitcoin to be distributed around. Proportionally, with the demand at that point, the price will play its role and rise. If the exact same event happens like this year did since last summer season, Bitcoin could quickly be reaching over the $20,000 mark in late or approximately 2020. Experts anticipate Bitcoin could increase to $1 million. Could Bitcoin rise to $1 million? In theory, yes, though consider what that would mean. A price of $1 million each would translate to an overall value of $16.35 trillion for all of the Bitcoins in existence. Presently, the total value of Bitcoin is about $39 billion. In the meantime, the U.S. money supply, or M2, that includes all physical currency, need deposits, savings accounts, and money market accounts, is about $13.5 trillion. And this is just one country's money supply. Bitcoin, on the other hand, is a genuinely international currency. As a matter of fact, US-based transactions are one of the smaller sources of Bitcoin volume. With that in mind, consider that the international M2 cash supply is approximated to be about $68.7 trillion, expressed in US dollars. A specialist's point is that while Bitcoin would need to work a little to become a major player in the global currency market, the overall Bitcoin market price at $1 million each isn't an outlandish amount of cash. For example, if the price of Bitcoin is $2,400 to $1 million would represent a rather mild gain when compared to the gains of the past 7 years. Essentially, $100 worth of Bitcoin acquired 7 years ago when a Bitcoin was definitely worth roughly $0.003 would be worth approximately $80 million today, a gain of about 800,000%. In the meantime, a jump from $2,400 to $1 million would represent a gain of only 42,000%. Chapter 10. Truths about the coin. The most well-known type of virtual currency is called Bitcoin and has progressively started to rise in appeal and strength for many years. In the beginning glance, Bitcoin could sound complicated. However, right below are some Bitcoin fun facts. 1. No one single entity controls this currency. Bitcoin is open source software, which means anyone and everyone who does not own it can access it. The exact same way you connect to some website and download some pictures or songs, the exact same way you can get Bitcoin. Aside from that, no company stands behind the creation of Bitcoin. Thus, since the creator is confidential, there is no owner. 2. There is a finite number of Bitcoins. As it was already specified earlier in this book, there's a limited number of Bitcoins, and that's one of the main reasons that it's stable and why it has a certain value. Everything that's limited on this earth has great value, and same as some other things or substances have extraordinary value because of their rarity and minimal amount, Bitcoins do also. 3. Bitcoins have no intrinsic or set value. This is another fact why Bitcoin has unique and steady value. There is no other currency or anything from which Bitcoin inherited its worth. Bitcoin has a particular value, but it varies depending on what services were provided for them. 4. You can see all the transactions. Since it is software that is available for anybody, every little thing concerning Bitcoins consisting of detailed reports of the operations are also available. There is nobody behind this currency, therefore the info is also not controlled by anyone. You can quickly search on the internet for all of the detailed info about the Bitcoin transactions and be certain that you will find what you are looking for. 5. You can mine Bitcoins. As it was already specified earlier, there are many ways for you to get Bitcoin, one of the most effective ways being called mining. That term is used for the ones who earn Bitcoins by solving math problems while using special software that will distribute a certain amount of Bitcoins in exchange for those options. And the people that do this sort of work are so-called miners. That is just one of the most fascinating ways of carrying out a currency, and it also helps inspires people to handle math problems. 6. You can't reverse a transaction to be forced to pay. Well, this is a thing that just needs to be this way, and once a transaction using Bitcoin is made, there is no returning. To put it simply, a deal can't be reversed. You can trust the security of operations since you're going to be pushed to use a site that handles them correctly. Additionally, you do not need to be concerned about being forced to pay for something simply because this is a digital currency. It's just the same as routine cash. If you do not want to pay for something, you don't need to. 7. You can send cash with little to no fees. The primary reason for the existence of the bank fees is profit, because it doesn't cost a thing for a bank to transfer cash to another account. That is just one of many ways how banks are robbing us and taking our cash for absolutely nothing. When you use Bitcoins, there are no charges when it comes to sending money to somebody, since there is no one that owns Bitcoins, thus there is no one that would want to earn a profit out of those transfers. 8. Bitcoins are held in digital wallets. If you are wondering where you're going to keep your Bitcoins, it's basic. You're going to have a wallet naturally, but a digital one. It's the same thing just like a bank account, only it has a very different name, and you don't need to pay any annual fees to keep the wallet. It acts as a physical wallet, and you'll have your Bitcoins in one place from where you can do whatever you really want with them. 9. Losing your wallet means those Bitcoins are lost forever. The most dangerous part of the Bitcoins is that you can't get them back unless the opposite side repays you the amount. That is why you should take care of the security of your Bitcoin wallet as well as operate only with trusted vendors. Losing your wallet will put you in a position where you can't get them back in any way, so be careful on having your saving and spending them. 10. You can buy things with Bitcoins. Yes, and you don't need to doubt that at all. You'll be able to purchase anything as long as the service provider of those products accepts the payment in Bitcoins. This is becoming a lot more popular, and you're going to find more things available which you can pay for Bitcoin. As mentioned above, listed more than 100 companies accepting Bitcoin worldwide. 11. Privacy. This is just one of the best advantages of the Bitcoin. There is no trace back to you, and that is the main reason why more nations are banning and prohibiting the usage of this currency. You can pay for anything with Bitcoin and stay completely anonymous. 12. Minimal supply. You should be aware of this at all times. There's a small number of Bitcoins that are available online, and that's it. This is the main reason for the stability of this currency as well as its value. Spend your Bitcoins carefully, and there is always the same amount of Bitcoins in flow. 13. Companies and websites are now accepting Bitcoin. This is a great way for you to buy what you need, since there are still many merchants that support the Bitcoin and accept payments through Bitcoin currency. 14. Death of Mt. Gox. Mt. Gox was a business that was handling nearly 70% of all the transactions based upon Bitcoin, and at the time of the crash, it was holding over 850,000 Bitcoins, which is valued to be the same as $450 million. That accident is considered to be one of the largest thieveries of all time, and since the Bitcoin is untraceable, they only managed to retrieve 200,000 Bitcoins. 15. The end of mining. The end of mining is unavoidable since there is only a limited number of Bitcoins. Therefore, the actual end of mining will be when the last Bitcoin is mined. When there are no Bitcoins left, there will be no need for miners. It's estimated that the 2140 year will be the year when the last Bitcoin is mined. 16. Frequent shift in value. This is something that is also inevitable when it comes to the stability of the currency. The more Bitcoins there are, the lower the value will be. The fewer Bitcoins there are, the better the value. This is a fact, and that is actually something which is normal for all kinds of things. 17. Government seizure. The main reason for banning this currency is the reason you can't discover that paid. This privacy is the issue because you can easily buy anything unlawful and nobody can know who purchased it. They can't trace the Bitcoin back to you. 18. American regulation. There are many questions when it relates to Bitcoin and its legality, but frankly, the situation is that the validity status varies from nation to country. There are those nations that support Bitcoin, and there are those that do not. You need to check online which nation supports and which doesn't support, and that information is easily obtained. The United States is also wanting to control and manage Bitcoin completely, which isn't something that anyone wants. 19. Physical Bitcoin. The exact same way there is a digital Bitcoin, there is also a physical Bitcoin, which is basically the same thing as the digital, and it also holds a piece of digital information. There are little fewer companies and markets that handle physical Bitcoins than the ones that are dealing with digital Bitcoins. 20. Pizza was the first great thing purchased using Bitcoin. After the first Bitcoin transaction took place between Satoshi and Hal Finney in 2009, the first recorded purchase was produced for purchasing pizza worth $25. To do so, 10,000 Bitcoins were spent. 21. Bitcoin network is much powerful than supercomputers. According to specialists, Bitcoin networks have a computing power of 2,046,364 petaflops per second. If you go on and combine the computing power of the 500 most effective supercomputers, you'll get a combined fever of 274 petaflop per second. 22. Bitcoin has been sent out into deep space. In 2016, Genesis Mining, a Bitcoin cloud mining supplier, sent Bitcoin to space. This was done using a 3D Bitcoin model and a Bitcoin paper wallet, which was connected to a weather balloon. The whole journey was noted using a GoPro focused on the model and wallet. Once the weather balloon reached a height of 20 kilometers, the ground group made the transaction to the paper wallet. Another transfer was made to the wallet once it achieved the maximum possible altitude of 34 kilometers. 23. Bitcoin is highly inconsistent. Since its launch and past, 1 decade ago, Bitcoin has become one of the most important phenomena in the digital world. Its cost has touched countless dollars. Nevertheless, the price keeps varying and it remains inconsistent. Forecasts have also been made that Bitcoin might fall in the future if it follows the present course. This is because of a small number of people, about 10, control many Bitcoin. This beats the whole decentralized nature of currency. 24. Black Friday Bitcoin Sale. This is the spot where you can get Bitcoin for cash and then farther use them to purchase anything there's available to be acquired using this currency. The best way for you to get some Bitcoins is Black Friday. 25. Federal governments will try to control Bitcoin and flop. As Bitcoin ends up being more prevalent, we anticipate federal governments will try to control it, try to understand more detail about how it is being used, and try to monitor its usage in the dark economy. Even so, because of the structure of Bitcoin and the file encryption and anonymity, which is baked into the blockchain, there is little opportunity to control this. The only clear way for nation-states to manage the distribution of the currency would be for them to purchase up the supply and stockpile Bitcoin, as many have done with gold. No matter what Bitcoin is being used for, the essential takeaway is that it is being used more and more commonly, and that this broadening use is leading to a corresponding uplift in value, which shows no indication of slowing anytime soon. This has been Bitcoin: Investing Strategies and Success for Beginners by Roy Fantas, narrated by Brandon Suku.